Brisbane Heat versus Hobart Hurricanes clash, and the Sydney Sixers and the Sydney Thunder clashes. 2 Dream11 contests to preview in today's show. I'm your host, Tim Williams, and I'm here with former Sydney Sixers media manager, current Cricket Australia commentator, Max Bryden. Maxie, how are you, mate?
G'day, Timo. I'm doing very well. G'day to all the listeners and viewers as well. Really looking forward to this clash, mate. It's been a great season. Canes have really jumped out of the ground and been a surprise packet, and there's a couple of big inclusions for the Heat, so it should be a fantastic game.
Very exciting times, mate. Our Sydney Sixers, they're going well so far. The Melbourne Stars, they've had a bit of a resurgence. The Perth Scorchers, one of the best to do it year in, year out. They're in all sorts of trouble this Big Bash campaign. But enough of that. What is Playbook 11 here to do, mate? We're here to provide expert Dream 11 advice from Australian soil with our local knowledge. We know the players, the venues, the local conditions, and we're going to transfer that knowledge into Dream 11 contests to help select your teams. We're going to be covering the remainder of the Big Bash, the Australia versus Sri Lanka 2-test series, the Champions Trophy, and plenty more heading towards the Indian Premier League later on in the year. Guys, we're available on YouTube. We're available on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Do us a big favor there if you're enjoying the content. And, of course, our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you are. Playbook 11. Go and give us a follow there for more content. Now, Maxie, let's get stuck straight into it, mate. The Brisbane Heat versus the Hobart Hurricanes, the first of our contests. Predicted teams. We start with the Brisbane Heat. We know Colin Munro's out there, and there's a few big inclusions coming into that team. What's that team looking like in your eyes?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a pretty easy team to forecast just based on the squad, which has literally just come out between these two sides. So to open the batting, I'm expecting to see Usman Khawaja and potentially Nathan McSweeney at the top of the order. At number 3, I expect to see Marnus Labuschagne. I wouldn't be shocked if McSweeney or Labuschagne moved around. Number 4 will be Matt Renshaw, who's having a sneakily good season up there. Number 5, Max Bryant, the hero of the Gabba, twice this season. At number 6 will be the English wicketkeeper Tom Alsop, and then we get into the all-rounders and the bowlers. Michael Neser at 7, Xavier Bartlett at 8, Matt Kuhneman, Mitch Swepson, and Spencer Johnson down at 11. So I'm not predicting there's going to be any room there for tall Paul Walter, although he has been declared fit and included in the squad, but they need a wicketkeeper, and I think that Alsop will have to take that number 6 spot, and they've got enough bowling anyway.
Yeah, they need a wicketkeeper. As you said, the international inclusions of Uzi Khawaja and Marnus Labuschagne currently at 3% each selected. I think that is going to change very quickly when people work out that they're available for this contest. Mate, and moving across to the surprise package of this year's competition, the Hobart Hurricanes. What are we looking at there? We know there was a nasty shoulder injury to Billy Stanley. Not tall Paul, big Billy in this case. He got injured in their last game early on taking a catch. What do you think this lineup looks like?
Yeah, look, Big Billy's going to be the only change in this one. He's been ruled out officially for the remainder of this season. That shoulder injury is serious enough to not only keep him out of this squad, but out of finals too, which is a big shame. The good news is that they had Chris Jordan, who was pulled out in the warm-up with a bit of potential soreness in his back and a back spasm, but he has flown up to Brisbane, and he's a fantastic chance to come straight back into this team, which will start with the top 3, Mitch Owen, Caleb Jewell, Charlie Wakeham. Then at number 4, I'm expecting Nikhil Chowdhury, Jake Doran, Matt Wade, batting all the way down at number 6 in last night's game. But still, he's got such a international pedigree as a finisher that I don't mind it. Into Tim David, Nathan Ellis, and then into the bowlers, Peter Hatzeglu, Riley Meredith, and Billy Stanlake. So just the 4 bowlers, so they'll need to look elsewhere for some overs in amongst their batting list, which is always exciting for Dream 11 when you can get a few of those all-rounder points as well.
Very exciting for Dream 11. We saw Mitch Owen roll the arm over and have a bowl last game for them. Nikhil Chowdhury, he got his 3 overs in that one. Tim David even had a little bit of a bowl as well. So very lot of options in this contest. And Max, we know that we're going to be chasing those all-rounders. We always do. And mate, what about the venue? The Gabba up in Brisbane. It's offered a bit for both bats and bowlers certainly this season. You've got a few stats around the Gabba.
Yeah, man, it really has. And I think, 5, 6, 7 years ago, this was a batsman's paradise, and we were regularly seeing average scores of over 180 and the 200 mark breach. But this year, the average score so far is just 159 from the 4 games in the first innings, I should say, that we've played there. We've seen a score of 177, another of 173, and then 2 scores under 150. So that average of about 160 places about right in the middle of most of the venues. We've seen an average as well of 12 wickets fall, which is about par. It's definitely favouring the pace bowlers over the spinners, so it's got a little bit of something for everyone. The ball does tend to seam and around a lot early, really aiding some of the likes of the Brisbane seam bowlers like Neser and Xavier Bartlett as well. Top order batsmen haven't been going that great, and we're seeing a lot more middle order runs as well as the life comes out of the ball out. So, yeah, definitely a lot in it for both batters and bowlers.
Yeah, it makes it a wide open Dream 11 contest for us, Maxi. So, as I said before, there's a lot of options for this contest with so many all-round roles and a lot of high-quality batsmen who could figure with the ball as well a little bit too. And, mate, before we pick our teams, a few stats that matter, the key information. What have you found for us?
First one is going to be about Xavier Bartlett. Now, the last time he strode out onto the Gabatoir, he took 4 for 10 in a match against the Melbourne Stars, and they could barely get bat on ball. In fact, Brisbane's the only ground where there's been 2 4-fers so far this season. So it is suiting the quicks. The other guy to take 4 wickets up there was Ben Dorshus from our Sydney Sixers. The next stat that matter, I want to talk about Max Bryant, because his last 2 knocks at the Gabba were 2 of his best ever in the Big Bash. He scored 72 and a 77 not out. And he did a lot of damage in the power surge. He's been one of the leading run scorers in the power surge right across the Big Bash, but it does really just emphasise the fact that middle order batters are having a greater impact more regularly in the Big Bash games at the Gabba this season than the top order compatriots, particularly, as I mentioned, that stat around Xavier, and opening bowlers have done pretty well up there. The next guy I wanted to call out is Matt Renshaw. He's having a sneakily good season for the Heat. Not a guy you normally associate with T20 power, but he's passed that magic 200 run mark for the season, and he's done so at a strike rate which is nearly 170, which really puts him in that elite category. So much has been made a song and dance about guys like Mitch Owen, Tim David, but Matt Renshaw's right on their heels from a statistical perspective, so I'd love to keep that in mind. And, of course, another middle order batter. The next one is Nathan Ellis. I want to talk a little bit about the Hobart Hurricanes skipper, just with some stats, because this guy's a fantastic bowler, and we know that. He was just added to the Australian squad for the Champions League trophy, but his strike rate from a bowling perspective this season is just 27, which means that he's taking less than 1 wicket per match, which is not great. And when you compare that to his teammates, Riley Meredith, he's got a wicket every 14 deliveries, and Chris Jordan just at 16. So they're both doing a lot better with him from a wicket-taking perspective. And the final stat that I wanted to call out, now, most of this damage has been done at home, but it would be remiss of me not to call out 2 of the big hitters from Hobart that have led them to the top of the table so far in Mitch Owen and Tim David, who are sitting 2nd and 5th on the list, respectively, for the most amount of sixes hit this year. Now, Mitch Owen is doing a lot of his damage up front. Tim David, he's doing all his damage in the power surge, as we know, but the big boys from down on the Apple Isle, they are swinging the willow and swinging it really hard this year. And we know that we love sixes in Dream 11 as well. And that's the stats that matter.
Mate, very well summarised. Some good gear there. Timmy David, seriously, he bats at number 6 and you sit there and go, just bat him higher, bat him higher. He needs more time at the crease. But then you see them getting results and what he does. Some blokes are just made for that role. Come in late and whack him around the park. He does it better than just about any in world cricket at the moment. Absolute star and so enjoyable to watch. Mate, let's get into our team selection for the contest. And we start, of course, at our wicket keepers. Ben McDermott, we know that he is injured at the moment, unavailable for this game, we do believe. Currently in 23% of teams. Get Ben McDermott out of your team, barring a late inclusion into this one, but seems unlikely at this point. Jimmy Pearson, mate, he's 8 crore at 12.5% selection. Matt Wade, 78% selection. Found a bit of form himself recently at 7 crore. Tom Alsop at 9.52% at 6 crore. And then Jake Doran, he's at 4.4% at 6 crore as well. Who do you like, mate? Matty Wade, obviously the class there, the highly selected one, but he is batting further down the order as of last game. Opportunity to go elsewhere, or do we stick to the proven man?
I like it, to be honest. I think even just the fact that he's a little bit cheaper than Tom Alsop makes him a bit of a slam dunk pick. It's it's not necessarily the greatest position to be choosing players for Dream11. We know that it's just so
Yep.
volatile, and the only place where we don't really get any bowling overs out of any of our players. But I think we can lock in Matty Wade. He's starting to look the goods, and I think that there's going to be an opportunity for him to hit some runs, particularly if the Brisbane fast bowlers knock over that Hurricanes top order.
Agree, mate. And between Neser, Bartlett, Spencer Johnson, such a lethal attack. You mentioned there that top order batsmen had struggled a little bit at the Gabba this season so far. So I think it brings the middle order into it a little bit more. I actually don't mind Matty Wade a touch further down that order. So let's lock in Matty Wade there as our sole wicket keeper because the options aren't terrific. In our batting ranks, Max Bryant at 9 crore, 74% selection. That is huge. Mitch Owen at 81% selection, 9 crore in his last game. 2 catches and a run out and a wicket to go with his runs before he was run out himself. Mate, it was madness, Mitch Owen. He was in everything. Tim David, he's at 71% selection at 8.5 crore. Nathan McSweeney, 68% selection at 8 crore. Uzi Khawaja at 2.8% selection, 7.5 crore. Marnus Labuschagne at 3.5% selection at 7 crore. We moved down there, the main ones. Caleb Jewell, he's at 3.69% selection at 6.5 crore. And then Charlie Wackham, the rookie, the young fella there at 6 crore. So who do you like in this one? And we have to start with the big two, Uzi Khawaja and Marnus Labuschagne. They're going to be popular picks. We know they're not as we record, but once people get wind of the fact that they're actually playing in this contest, that'll jump up, I would imagine, to maybe 70%. What are you feeling, Maxie?
Yeah, I like both of them, and I think that's the ownership that really tips me in. We've seen at various points in their career that these players have been dominant when they have come into the Big Bash, particularly Usman more so than Marnus, but there could just be a sneaky little opportunity to get a leg up here by picking the low ownership guys. And of course, it's always difficult when there's no form line for us to judge on, but I don't mind trying to squeeze one of them. I think potentially maybe Usman. I've just got a bit of a feeling that opening the batting up there, it could be a good night for him.
Usman Khawaja, you like there. As you said, talk about the test stars coming back. Steve Smith, we'll get to him in the next preview, but a century last game. That was phenomenal. And Nathan McSweeney, we know he's been picked in that squad for Sri Lanka as well. I'm good with it. Look, they're 2 absolute stars. As I said, I think they'll both be around about 70% selection on average once people work out that they're in. But happy to throw Usman Khawaja in. I would go Marnus Labuschagne if he was more of a chance of bowling, but they seem pretty set on their 5 bowling rotation at the moment, especially depending on the amount of that they do go with. But how many spinners they elect for this team? We know they've had Swepson and Kuhnemann also in that test squad for Sri Lanka. So to add a 3rd spinner in at the Gabba, probably not going to bowl. So let's go Usman Khawaja. What about from the Hurricanes, mate? Owen, David, who do we like? David's always a great option, but batting at number 6 worries me, but if he's rolling the arm over, Mitch Owen's the other one. Now that he's bowling a little bit as well, who do we like? Mitch Owen with his current role, if he's going to bowl again, very hard to ignore.
Yeah, I think you've got to lock in both of them, to be fair, and this is a matter of these are the guys who can hurt you if you go against them. Both of them are in good form. Both of them are just highly involved in the game as well. Not only Owen did he bowl 2 overs the other night, but he's also fielding the hot spots. We saw him take a catch. We saw him get a run out as well. So I think that these guys are hyper involved in the game, and I might even have a sneaky little VC or C play on one of them. So I want both of them there.
Ooh, don't mind it at all. Mate, I'm happy to go against Maxi Bryant at 74% ownership. He's in great form, but he's very hit or miss. We know that he's explosive, but at that ownership, I'm hoping that he snicks one off early and happy to go against him. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm happy to back you in on that as well. The guy, if we have to pick another batter that I'd potentially have a look at, would actually be Nathan McSweeney.
Yeah.
Reason being is that with only 5 bowlers in that lineup, he's got the guy with the different skill set. He might roll the arm over if they need an over, a chop out to anyone throughout the game. His only good score so far this summer came at the Gabba. I think the other thing as well that we've got to remember with this Brisbane Heat side is that without Stanlake, they're really only playing 4 bowlers, and there's a lot of part-time stuff that's going to be coming down from Nick Chowdhury, from Tim David, from potentially Mitch Owen, which, these guys are professional cricketers and they're not bad, but they're not world class, right? So I don't mind a little bit of a play on a Brisbane Heat batter and Nathan McSweeney.
All right, let's leave him out for the time being. If we need him a little bit later, there's so many good bowling options that we can go with, and we're about to get to the all-rounders, but there's some good ones there as well. So we'll leave him out for now, but we can always add him in later. Mate, of the all-rounders, Matt Renshaw at 84.96% at 8.5 crore. We're not expecting him to bowl. Chris Jordan likely back into this team, provided he's cleared to play at 62% selection at 8.5 crore. Nikhil Chowdhury, he's at 83 or 83.99% selection at 8 crore. Paul Walter at 6.3%. We're not sure that he'll be in there at 7.5 crore. And then Michael Neser at 53% ownership, 7 crore. Signed, sealed, delivered. Mate, I'm going to overrule whatever you want to say, but Michael Neser, he's in my team, mate. What do you reckon?
Yep, let's lock him in. Gabba specialist, loves swinging the new ball. Got a big role in this team, so I think we can lock him in. And to be honest, I'd be very comfortable locking in a lot of these guys, depending on how many we're allowed, because the names that you spoke of are not only the best roles, but they're the most informed guys as well. So I'd be very happy to include Nick Chowdhury. I'd be very happy to include Chris Jordan, in particular if the Hobart Hurricanes are going to bowl first. And if there's room as well, as I mentioned before, Matty Renshaw, sneaky good form line. And I think people potentially, what's his ownership at?
Renshaw is currently he's at 85% as a bat only. Okay. We're not expecting him to bowl. I don't like it, mate. I like the form, but I think there are so many players in this game, quality batsmen who we're expecting to bowl a little bit. I like that role better.
Yeah, nice. Let's go against him then.
All right. See you, mate. Chris Jordan, a very enticing one, obviously back into this team. Do we want him? We know that he's bowling key overs under us. It's not really an injury cloud. It sounds like missing last game was more precautionary, those back spasms, but he will bat sort of number 7, we're expecting, probably coming in after Tim David. Nikhil Chowdhury's been pushed up to number 4. Do we want Chowdhury and Chris Jordan, or do we want to choose between the two of them?
I'm really happy with both. I'd be confident in playing Chowdhury in either inning, just because his role's immaculate. Like, he's going to bat as high as number 4, and he's going to get between 2 and 4 overs, which is just exactly what you want in your Dream11 setup. Jordan, I'd like, and as I mentioned before, taking a wicket every 16 balls, that's better than a superstar like Nathan Ellis. The only question will be, I much prefer him if he's going to bowl in the first innings. Just because we know that that's typically when more wickets fall in the first innings of a game rather than the second. So if we could get a little sneaky, a little bit of a game time decision, then he'd be one I'd like to include. I'd be happy to leave out if we want to find someone else.
Well, mate, I've overruled again. He's in our team. You mentioned his exploits with the ball, but with the bat as well. His last 4 innings, 18 not out, 4 not out, 16 not out, 17 not out. They can't get him out. That's how good he's going. So he is into our team. And, mate, we move on to the bowlers in this contest. And we've got 4 to choose from based on our current list. And this is why I wanted to leave out, someone like McSweeney and Renshaw, because Xavier Bartlett, 86% selection at 9 crore. Spencer Johnson, 82% selection at 8.5 crore. Nathan Ellis, 51% selection at 8.5 crore. People have lost faith in the skipper in Nathan Ellis. You're dreaming. Riley Meredith, 73.46 selection at 8.5 crore. Matty Kuhnum, he's 32% at 7.5 crore. Billy Stanley, gone. Mitch Swepson, 8.2% at 7 crore. Peter Hatzeglu, 3.1% selection at 6.5 crore. Mate, people are coming for the big boys. Bartlett, Johnson, Meredith, Ellis to a lesser degree. Who do we like here?
Man, I think you got to lock in Bartlett. You got to lock in Spencer. Their roles are just too good to ignore.
Yep.
Be very, very happy to lock in Riley. I think, we're talking about a guy who's played a bit of cricket for Australia, but he's been one of the breakout stars of this tournament, being absolutely probably the best form of his life. So I want to lock him in. Ellis is an interesting one because we know his class, but the stats aren't really pointing his name, and that's probably why only 56% of people are selecting him. But if I think about that list, is there anyone else I'd really rather have than him? It could be one of those ones that comes down to the toss, and if we want to include him, because look, aside from him, Matt Kuhneman's in good nick. He's taken wickets in both of his last couple of games, but there's no one else that's really jumping out as a must-have. So, yeah, what are you feeling?
Ellis has the role. He's bowling the 18th and 20th overs. I know the wickets aren't falling his way, but it's a great role. Often has a great impact in the field, and he's also got a pretty decent batting role as well. And we've seen him hit some runs this tournament already. I just feel like we've gone with, aside from Marnus and Usman, who we expect their percentage to skyrocket, we've gone with some pretty highly owned players. We want to win this contest. We need to go something a little bit left field. So if you're that, I would prefer Ellis than Meredith. But if you're that, if you really want Meredith, I'm happy to stick with him. But I do think probably just that last bowling spot. I think maybe take a bit of a gamble on a Brisbane Heat spinner. Maybe that is Kuhnemann, but we just need someone a little bit more as a point of difference for our team.
Yeah, good call, mate. We are here to win the thing. So let's lock in Matt Kuhnemann. Let's lock in Matt Kuhnemann.
In all righty. And we've still got one spot to go because I've gone Bartlett, Johnson, Meredith, and Kuhnemann. My boy Nathan Ellis, we're avoiding him. That's devastating. Captains, Maxi, Mitch Owen is currently quite popular at 13.92%. Captaincy, Chris Jordan at 12.42%. Outside of that, really spread. So there's opportunities everywhere. Who do we like as a VC and a C?
You know that I like to do this at the toss, right? I like to try and get myself a fast bowler who's bowling in that first innings. But if you've got a gun to my head, I am thinking that it's Michael Neser's time to shine. He has played 2 matches back now in the Big Bash, and he looked good in Adelaide, albeit they conceded 250 runs in that match, so his stats didn't necessarily flatter. But I think I'm hoping now that he's back to his peak fitness, and I want him to be my C. VC, I reckon a sneaky one. I got a feeling Tim David, and the reason is this. One, I think that he's going to get a couple of overs with the ball, and you got to be bowling to take wickets, and that always increases his scoring potential. And 2, the Hobart Hurricanes batting list without Shai Hope and without Ben McDermott, it is a little bit weaker, and so I don't really care if he's batting down at number 6 or number 7 because he's going to get some opportunities. And worst case scenario, if the Hurricanes are batting really well and they need someone to come in the last few overs or say 4 overs and just hit it around, he's going to get elevated. So I like Tim David. He's probably going to be more popular than I expect just because people will be following the form line, but I like him as a sneaky BC and a Neser C, mate. What do you think?
I agree with Neser C. I think he's an absolute, I think he's a world-class bowler. We know he can hit with the bat as well. He has a great role in this team. He's absolute class. I prefer Nikhil Chowdhury because he's been promoted to bat at number 4. We know he's going to bowl overs. As you said, he could bowl as many as 4. Tim David may or may not bowl. He probably gets an over or 2, but he's also only an okay bowler. He does a job. Bats at number 6. He might only get a few overs. I think the role of Chowdhury is a lot better, and he's also in some good form. I like Chowdhury, but mate, I'm happy to give this to you. Have I convinced you enough, or do you want David? I'll give it to you if you'd like.
Let's go Chowdhury.
Yes.
I think if he's lower ownership at
They're
VC,
both about the same.
Then yeah. Okay. Well, let's go Big Nick. I like Big Nick. He's settled in Queensland. He had a really good game at the Gabba last year in the corresponding fixture. So let's bring him in.
Yeah, they're both sitting at about 7% in that vice captaincy slot and similar captaincy. So I think that's the play.
No. Yeah, beautiful areas anyway.
Exactly, mate. Our team for the contest: Matt Wade, Usman Khawaja, Tim David, Mitch Owen, Michael Neser, Chris Jordan, Nikhil Chowdhury, Xavier Bartlett, Riley Meredith, Spencer Johnson, and Matt Kuhnemann. Let's move on now that we've already... that's a winning team. We know that. The Sixers and the Thunder, the predicted teams here, mate. At the Sydney Sixers, how do you see this lining up?
Yeah, interesting squad, I guess. They're going to have Steve Smith opening the batting with Josh Philippe. We know that for a fact. The number 3, though, there's a bit of a question mark. And the reason being is that prior to the Sydney Sixers and Thunder game, the Sixers play the Adelaide Strikers, and Curtis Patterson has been left out of the Sydney Sixers squad, who had been batting number 3, and there hasn't been an explanation yet as to why. So we could see Jack Edwards at number 3. If not, it'll be Curtis Patterson. If we do see Jack Edwards at 3, we see Lachlan Shaw at number 6. The middle order will be Moses Enriquez and Jordan Silk. We know that for a fact. And then we get into the bowlers. It'll be Hayden Kerr, Joel Davies, Ben Dorcius, Sean Abbott. And then there will be Todd Murphy as well, batting down there. Potential guys who we could see get a debut would be either Ben Menenti, who hasn't played a game so far this season, but the Sixers might be keen to get a game into him before finals, just given that we were going to be losing Todd Murphy. There's also Jafar Chohan, the English leg spinner, who hasn't played a game yet so far. But again, same logic. They need a spinner when Todd Murphy leaves. And the other guy that we could potentially see, because Sean Abbott as well, he's not going to be available for finals, it could be Mitch Perry. So keep that in mind when we talk about ownership, because there's a few younger guys there, a few guys without much Big Bash experience, and you could get a little advantage. So, yeah.
All good. And at the Sydney Thunder, we've seen that Daniel Sams, unfortunately ruled out for the remainder of the season, had that nasty collision with Cam Bancroft earlier on. He's gone, hadn't been playing for a few games anyway. But how do you see the Thunder lining up? Probably a pretty settled lineup, I'd imagine.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, settle's a good way to describe him. I think we're going to see the opening pair of David Warner and Sam Constas. Number 3 will be Matt Gilks. Number 4 will be Sam Billings. Number 5 will be Hugh Wyburn, the 19-year-old Queenslander who captained the Australian under-19s. So I think he will hold his spot. Number 6, Chris Green, fantastic role, higher in the order. And then it'll be a combination of George Garton, Tom Andrews, and probably Nathan McAndrew in there as well, Tanvir Sangha. And then the final spot will be Muhammad Hasnain, the Pakistani 150 kilometre per hour Thunderbolt bowler. So, a really exciting team.
Easy one there. And around the grounds at the Sydney Cricket Ground, a famous venue in world cricket. What are we expecting here, mate? Batters, bowlers, who are we targeting?
Mate, it's a real lottery this year, and I'll tell you why, because for the last 3 years, the SCG has been an absolute tip. It's been awful. It's been a really terrible ground to watch cricket at, and scores have been very low. But all of a sudden this year, and I think I've got some reasons why, but I won't go into them, but runs have been flowing. There's been 3 games so far there with first inning scores of 169, 194 and 220. And the average score when you work that out is 194, which makes it one of the highest scoring grounds in the country, basically right up there with the Adelaide Oval. When it comes to wickets as well, it's right on that similar mark to the Gabba. It's just one less, where we're losing 11 wickets a game. That, of course, was inflated because the Sixers chased 194, only 2 wickets down against the Melbourne Stars. So, yeah, it's definitely favouring the batters this ground, and I'm expecting pretty much the same to happen this Friday night at the SCG.
Mate, from some venue stats to some player stats, the stats that really matter, what have you found for this contest?
Thanks, Timo. Man, I've got a few here for you, so stick with me. The first one, I want to talk about Moses Enriquez, and this is a guy who has flashes of brilliance, but one thing he always does is turn up against his local rival, the Sydney Thunder. No one scored more runs in this corresponding fixture than his 517 historically in the 14 years of the Big Bash. But his averages rises all the way to 43, which is above a career average, which is, I think, just less than 30. So he really likes to turn up against his team. Steve Smith, we know that he's already scored 1 ton in this Big Bash, but you're going to count against him when he's got games remaining against at the Adelaide Oval and at the SCG as well. He scored, in fact, 125 not out against the Thunder 2 years ago in the same match on a pitch that was absolutely shocking. In fact, the winning margin in that game was 125 runs. It was the biggest ever victory in matches between the Sixers and the Thunder, and it was all off the bat of Steve Smith. The next guy I want to talk about is Sean Abbott. Now, not only has he recorded figures of 2 for 34 and 4 for 43 in his 2 matches at the SCG so far, so averaging 3 wickets a game, his career strike rate against the Sydney Thunder is 15.5, which is rock solid. So I think he's going to be very popular, and for good reason. His record's amazing. Another guy I want to talk about is Big Bad Ben Dorshus, whose batting strike rate this season is 212, which is just absolutely amazing. It's the second best mark of anyone this season. He's only faced 33 deliveries, but he's already hit 6 of them over the fence for 6. He's on another level. And I really am interested to see if he's classified as an all-rounder or a bowler, but we'll get to that soon. The next one I want to talk about is David Warner from the Sydney Thunder. He is the current Golden Cap wearer with 324 runs on the season. He'd had a couple of quiet Big Bashes in the last 2 years, but he's really turned up this season and put a few scores back to back. So he's going to be a really popular one, and that's for good reason. Next guy, and the final guy I want to talk about, is just Sam Billings. He's actually the second leading run scorer for the Sydney Thunder and top 3 for wicketkeepers as well, with Tim Seyfarth and Josh Philippe just nipping at his heels. So batting number 4, talking a lot behind the stumps, taking catches. I don't mind Sam Billings in this one either.
unlike an English wicketkeeper to be talking a bit behind the stumps, mate. And yeah, you mentioned that a few of those Sydney Sixers players have such good roles. It can be hard to pick the best ones. But Ben Dwarshuis, you mentioned, we'll get to him shortly. He'll be quite high selection, but he's being promoted ahead of some really good big hitting batsmen, and he's shown why with the stats that you've just mentioned. So, mate, let's get into our team selection, and we start at the wicketkeepers. Josh Philippe at 86% at 8.5 crore. Having a bit of a mixed tournament, not his best, but some okay signs thus far. Sam Billings at 59%, he's at 8.5 crore. Matty Gilkes is at 17.4% at 7 crore. And then Lockie Shaw, if he does come in there, he's at 0.58% at 6.5 crore. Who do we like here?
Well, I don't like Matt Gilkes. He's a good player, but I don't think he's in the class of the other two. I think this might be an interesting one to go on ownership, and let's lock in Sam Billings. I really like the guy who is less owned. So let's go him. He's having a good tournament.
I agree, mate. He's been excellent, Sam Billings, and he's the world-class element of this one in comparison to Josh Philippe, who we know is a class talent, but I like Billings as well, and at 25 to 30% less selection, I think he is the play there. Moving on to the batsman, and Moises Enriquez, who's actually rolled his arm over this tournament. He bowled an over last game. He's bowled a couple here and there. Enriquez, 77% selection at 9 crore. David Warner, he's at 93% selection at 9 crore. James Vince at 14% selection. He is gone. Gone still here? Still here.
No, he's gone.
Gone. I was going to say, I was rattled myself a little bit there. James Vince, gone. Get him out of your team. The 14% scared me a little bit. Jordan Silk at 7% at 8 crore. Steve Smith at 78% selection at 7.5 crore. Surprised that's not about 99%, but hey, that's an opportunity for us. Sammy Constas at 57% selection at 7.5 crore. Ollie Davies dropped for the last game. Unfortunately, we love Ollie Davies on this podcast, but he's unlikely to sort of come back into that team. Who knows? Webgeen, he's at 1.5% selection at 7 crore. And yeah, that's the main ones of the batsmen. Mate, who do we like here, and why is it Steve Smith?
Mate, let's just lock him in. We don't need to talk much more about him. Maybe we will when we bring up the captaincy play.
Yeah.
The other guys I want to bring in, I don't mind Moses for those reasons that I mentioned.
Agreed.
He's a big game player. He likes to step up in these matches, so I think he's a fantastic guy, particularly with weekend spin options the Sixers have got. He's every chance of a bowl. Sneaky one, I don't mind Sam Constas, and the reason being that we've seen in his short career in the public eye that this guy loves a fight and loves a scrap. And I think he's going to be really up for this one. He's returning to the SCG. His home ground. He played a test match there. Was yelling at Jasprit Bumrah. I wouldn't be surprised if he was yelling at Sean Abbott or Ben Dwarshuis at some point in this one. But I'm going to back him. He's in good form too. He scored 2 half centuries in only 4 matches so far in the Big Bash. So I think that's a really, really good one to bring in. The only other guy, if I were to spend my money up in the batters that I'd like to look at, would be David Warner. Immaculate form, but I think there's probably an opportunity to go against him, just because if there's any side who know him well, it is his New South Wales teammates, the Sydney Sixers. They plan better than anyone else. They execute better than anyone else. So I think there could be an opportunity to go against David Warner. You
took the words out of my mouth, mate. I don't want David Warner in my team, which sounds tough based on his form, but we know that he's going to be batting only. He's at 93% selection. He's very expensive at 9 crore. I just think the Sydney Sixers, they played so much cricket with and against him. I think if anyone's going to get him out early and find weaknesses, or know the weaknesses, I should say, whether or not they can get him is a different story. It's the Sydney Sixers. So let's leave David Warner out in that one. To the all-rounders, Green at 93.78% selection. Chris Green, I almost said Cameron Green there. Sorry, guys. 8.5 crore. Jack Edwards at 57% selection at 8 crore. Hayden Kerr at 76% selection at 8 crore. Dan Christian, probably not featuring in this one, the 41-year-old veteran. He's at 7.5 crore. And then Joel Davies at 4.5% ownership at 7 crore. Who do we like here?
Really like Jack Edwards. As I mentioned, there's no Curtis Patterson in the squad for their game on Wednesday night. So we don't know if he's going to be available on Friday night, but just the opportunity to have a guy who's going to bowl 4 overs and 4 good overs and bat number 3, it's just too good to pass up. So let's lock him in. I really like Hayden Kerr. He was another guy. I didn't call out his stats, but his bowling strike rate against the Sydney Thunder is 15.5. He's bowling big overs as well. He's bowling the 20th a couple of times this season. He's got the capability to bowl surge as well. He's been trusted a lot by Moses Enriquez, and he can bat too. So I don't mind him. Chris Green's an interesting one because he's the Thunder's leading wicket taker, but he's very hot and cold. He's taken a few games where he's taken 3 wickets, and there's been more than a couple of games where he's taken none. So I don't really know how to feel about Chris Green and if I want to bring him in as well. What are you thinking, mate?
I wish he was a bit less selected. Like, he's often in the past, he's taking wickets this time around, and he took, I think it was maybe 4 wickets last game or 3 wickets last game. I think it was 4, as they were going after him, chasing runs late. But at 90, almost 94% selection, I think teams can awfully see him off. Can be quite a defensive bowler. He's decent with the bat, but batting a fair way down the order. So I'm happy to go against him at that ownership. If we get to our bowlers and we're one short, we'll add him back in. But let's go against him for now. Jack Edwards, the fact that he could be batting at 3, at worst batting at number 6, we know he's bowling 4 overs and key overs. He should be far higher, in my opinion. I can't believe he's only 57% selection. So I like your picks there, mate. And then of the out-and-out bowlers, Ben Dwarshus, 91% selection at 9 crore. Wes Agar, if selected, is at 10% selection at 8 crore. Every chance that he isn't. Sean Abbott at 91% selection at 7.5 crore. Hasnain is at 7.8% selection, very low at 7.5 crore. Big Georgie Garton at 21% selection at 7.5 crore. Tom Andrews, we saw what he did with the bat last game, mate. Took a few wickets with the ball as well. 67% selection. People have not missed on Tommy Andrews at 7.5 crore. Going down the list, Todd Murphy, 7% selection at 7 crore. Jackson Bird, we don't know if he'll be there or not. Tanvir Sangha, he's at 26% selection at 7 crore. Nathan McAndrew, 23% selection, 6 crore. Oh, take your pick. A lot of options there. Who do you like? I know you like Ben Dwarshus because you're his biggest fan on the planet.
Yeah, mate, that's an understatement. I want to buff the bloke. Let's get him in. I think just the fact that he's not classified as an all-rounder is a bit of a cheat code. So let's whack him in. I'd love to whack Sean Abbott in as well. We know that he's going to get 2 or 3 wickets easily just with his role, let alone how good he is. 2 names that you mentioned on low ownership that piqued my interest were Mohammad Hasnain now. He has had a rude awakening returning to the Big Bash. I think I looked at his economy rate prior to this, and I think it's a 12 and over from his 2 matches, which is awful. But he's a better cricketer than that, and he has something that frightens a lot of batters, which is raw pace. So his ownership, I don't mind it. And the other one from Sydney Thunder that I'm interested in always, because spin, SCG sort of goes hand in hand, is Tanvir Sangha. So he's just returned from injury. He had a side strain which kept him out from the start of the tournament. But worst case scenario, you're going to go to a guy who keeps it pretty tight and is hard to put away. And best case scenario, you're going to get a guy who can take a bunch of wickets. So I like Tanvir. I like Hasnain. Have we got any more spots for bowlers?
We've got one more spot. One more spot. What do you want to do with it?
It's a good question. Look, if I rule out the people that I don't want, I don't want Todd Murphy. He's not really being trusted a huge amount. I don't want George Garton. So, yeah, I'm a little bit stuck. I don't think we're going to see Jackson Bird return for the Sydney Sixers, which is unfortunate.
Left us one short, hasn't it? We're one short.
Why don't you give us the lowest ownership of those players I just mentioned, and we can do a bit of an anti-hero pick, because maybe I am feeling Todd Murphy, and the reason being is that a couple of lefties.
What about Nathan McAndrew at 6 crore? He's 23% selection.
Yeah, let's do that, because last game he bowled power surge for the Sydney Thunder. Garton didn't bowl at all. So there's an opportunity here that he can bowl a big over, someone hits one up the chimney, and he gets a wicket from an easy catch. So let's go McAndrew. Hopefully people are just forgetting that he's even returned into that lineup, and he's a good player.
Yeah. Of the captain, Steve Smith currently at 24% captain, at 17% vice captain. Moving down, I mean, he's taken up the brunt of them. Sean Abbott's at 9% captain and 17% vice captain. Yeah, they're very much the 2 popular ones, mate. Who do we like here?
Man, I think there's a good opportunity to go against Steve Smith just at those numbers. It's a risky play, just given how good he is. He's a class above, but I want to think about guys who are going to be deeply involved in what I hope would be a Big Sixes win, although Thunder have scrapped really hard this season. They've done really well. Well, you took one of the names out of my mouth. I do like Jack Edwards, and the other guy I like is Sean Abbott. So I'd be happy to play around with a VC or a C. Probably more lean towards Abbott, just with his wicket-taking ability as a C. He could easily get a bag of 3 or 4. And Jack, just for his all-round ability, I think he'd be a VC as well. Just could really boost up the overall score, very much like how Nick Chowdhury, similar logic that we've used in that first game.
Jack Edwards, VC, Sean Abbott, C. I was potentially leaning towards an Edwards captaincy just because we think he might bat at 3. Not confirmed, but he might. But regardless, mate, we've got them both in there. They're both pretty low, so great opportunities there. Now, let's have a look at our final team for the contest. We've ended up with Abbott captain, vice captain, as I said, Jack Edwards, Sam Billings, Enriquez, Smith Constas, Edwards, Kerr, Abbott, Dwarshus, McAndrew, Hasnain, and Tanvir Sanger. Maxi, Bryden, that'll do us, mate. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about him. But thank you, mate, for your great insights, your great stats. And, let's go.
Thanks, Timo. Thanks for the audience as well. I'm really looking forward to the remaining regular season games of the Big Bash. It's been an awesome tournament so far, probably the most even we've had. So I hope everyone's being enjoyed as much as I have.
Absolutely, mate. Guys, remember, if you're watching on and you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to get involved, comment, let us know what we've got right, what we've got wrong, who you're captaining, all those things. Get involved and let's have a bit of fun. Good luck in the Dream11 contests.